Hello guys, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. Now in this video we are going to talk about how to implement search functionality in ASP.NET MVC. So you're going to create a database table, you're going to insert these values. Now we're going to have a page whereby you can actually have a search button to type the either by name, then we're going to search the database to see what the data that we have now. That's what you're going to do. So mainly this video is going to focus on how to implement the search functionality. How do you search a database table, okay, and retrieve the data, display it over there for the user to see. Now the first thing that we're supposed to do here is to create a database table. So I have a table, ID, name, gender, and email. So I'm going to copy this table, and in my database I'm going to paste this. So I'm going to create this table. Now once I have this table created, what's the next thing to do? I'm going to insert a sample value. So I am select my database first. So sample values here. Let's run this database table to create it. Now I have it there. Now let's insert the sample values. So with the values, since we have name, gender, and email, we're going to provide name, gender, and email. Okay. So let's pass in this. I'm going to clear this. Paste this. Now F5. So I have the row inserted. So let me clear all this. Okay, so if I go to select star from TBL workers, let's create a table and see the data we have now. So see, we have a list 1 up to 10. Okay, now once we have that, what's the next thing to do? Now we have to add an ADO.NET entity data model. So let's go and add it. So I'm going to copy this is the name that I'm going to give to mine. So let's go and in our solution explorer, right click on models, go to add new item. Now the new item, click on data and select ADO.NET entity data model. Now give it a name. So that's the name that I'm giving it to my sample data model. Click on add. You want to get it from database, so choose this database, click on next, and let's see, we have a connection there. So let's select this a connection. Okay, so aside from that, if not, click on new connection and get the connection. Now this is the name that I'm going to give to my sample DB context. So let me copy this. And I'm going to give it my as what sample DB context, and I'll click on next. So we are saying that with existing property in application settings to choose a different name. Alright, so we have sample DB context here already. So this I'm going to do first. Let's go to, let's clear this. Now in this web.config file, there's a DB context over here. So let me delete that. So let me delete this first. Okay, so let's see whether I have deleted one. So let me just get rid of this. Okay, so alright, now let's save this, and now let's go in there and add it again. So I'm going to clear this. Now let's go to models. Okay, now that's models, right click, go to add new item. Now data ADO.NET model, and now the name going to be sample data model. So sample data model, that's the name of my model. So let me put this here, then add. Now choose from database, add. Now the next one, that's going to be in the connection, so sample DB context, and I'm going to go to new connection, and now with the new connection you wait for it to open, then we establish a new connection. So new connection, you wait for it to load. Now you pass in dot, that's going to be our local database. So local host, we set a database, and that's a sample. Now we go to, you can test to see if the connection successfully, it is done. Now let's click on OK, and now let's rename our sample DB context. Click on, so sample DB context, click on next, and now let's wait for us to get a database table. Click on table, and now DBO, and now let's choose a TBL worker. So that's the name of the database table. Click on that, and here we want it to reside in models. So add models, and now click on finish. So you have the database connected. Now once you are done, you go and edit the entity. Okay, so the entity, and then we have to edit it to worker. So let's wait for it to load. Once you do that, we build it to build this solution. So let's wait for it to be loaded, then we build that solution. So now let's click on this, let's go to, and now instead of the TBL worker, we like to use worker. Okay, so let's use worker here. Now once you're done, save this. So wait for it to be saved, then we build solution, then move on from there. So after we build solution, what is going to be the next thing to do? We're going to add a controller to this application to actually manipulate the data from database. So click on solution, and now your project, so that is solution, right click and go to build solution. So let's wait for it to be built down here. So build once succeeded, that's okay. So now the next thing to do here is we have to add a controller. So we're going to name it as home controller. So let's go to our controller solution explorer. Now go to controller, right click controllers, and then click on add controller. And now we are going to choose in this controller with views using entity framework. Okay, so we are going to edit. Now when you go to read here, you can see an MVC controller with action with razor views to create, read, update, delete, and list entities. So this is what we're going to actually use. Click on add, and now the name that we're going to give to our work is going to be home. So let's first choose this. Let's choose this worker. Okay, now instead of this worker controller, let's make it as home. So let's change this to what? Home. So home controller, and now there is our sample database. So that's a connection, and now generate view. So click on that, and now this is what you're going to use. Click on add. So let's wait for it to be added to generate the following views for us. So now when you check, you're going to have a folder called worker, and we're going to have, or home, we're going to have a folder called home. Now with this home controller, you're going to have the following files. So all views like create, edit, detailed, as you can see from here, index. Okay, so now when you click on index, you can see we have this over here. Now let's see. So we have this layout, and now you can see we have a default layout there. So that is this view start, and a layout here we have it in the shared folder, and that is the layout.cshtml. So if you don't know how to create layout, you can watch the previous video to understand that. Okay, but for now we have it over here. So now let's save this. Now let's run this Control plus F5. Let's run this to see if it's going to pop up. It's going to display the list of employees or the list of workers in our database for us. So we wait for this to be loaded, then let's see what we're going to do next. Okay, so you can see that we have the list being generated, but let's use so this is what we're going to do. Let's clear this. Okay, now let's save this, and let's refresh and see if we're actually going to use a layout. Okay, so now it is using a layout that we have created, and that is, so you can see we have a list here. Now with this list that we have, we want to actually put a text box here where we can actually pass in text to search from this database table that we have. Okay, so maybe with this we can actually, let's go to table and let's add table border. So we can add border here equal to, you can add border 1. Now save this and let's refresh. We're going to have a border around this. Okay, and maybe you can decide to add another style. So that's a bootstrap, and you can add class as table. We can add table stripe. So table stripes, and that is, as you can see, so when you refresh it, you're going to have a table stripe in, as you can see from here, you have a beautiful table design. Okay, now if I click on edit, I can edit it, as you can see. Now this edit, it is not using, so you need to actually do it. So back to the list. Now detailed, it is not, so you can see you have the detailed here, and now back to the list, and now delete, we have it over here. So back to the list. Now let's quickly go right to those views and now try to make the changes. So instead of having this null, let's clear the null off, so we can actually use the default one that we have specified. So we save this. The next one is the detailed. Let's also clear that. We save this. Then the next one is going to be the index. So we have index already. Now let's go to the edit and let's clear that. Okay, so now let's save this, and now let's refresh our page and see. currently. So now if you go to edit, because we have it over there. Now back to list. If you go to detailed, we still have it over here. Now back to list, and if you go to delete, we still have it over here. So back to list. Now you have this before form design. Now the next thing that you want to do here, you want to actually apply. When you go to create tool, because we can still create text here. Now you want to add the text box whereby you can actually search, filter this table. So how are you going to do it? That is what you have to do next. So let's design a view in the index view. Okay, so this is what you want to actually use. So let's copy this paragraph, and now let's go to our view. Now that's the index, so let's search for index. Now in this index, you see that you have a paragraph here with a button. So on the table, on top of the, aside from this create, you want to have another paragraph in here. Then let's paste this. So this is what actually trying to say. Now we are going to let's run this into the view so you can actually see this well. Okay, so to actually explain that, so refresh this, and as you can see, we have a search by, and that is search by, as you can see from here. So if you search this, you can see we have search by, and that is search by bold text indicated there. Now you can see we have radio button, so that is a radio button indicated, and as you can see radio button. So this is a name, and that is a value, and you have what? That is a checked. So that's why as soon as you refresh, you can see we have name checked, and this is a text name indicated and gender also indicated. Okay, now we have a button. So with this button, you can decide to give it a class as btn. Okay, btn. You can have success, and so as soon as you save this, it's going to be affected. So let's see, you're going to have it in the green. So you have this button also over here as well. Okay, so now with this, so even here with this text box, we can still decide to add what? Add a class to it. Add a class to it. So new. Now with this class, let's pass in a class as equal to, so form control. So that is the class. Let's save this, and now let's refresh and see what we're going to actually have as well. So you can see we have. Now let's try again and see what actually is going to give us. So you can see we have new search. Alright, so now let's pass this overloaded version. Let's use this, and aside from that, this is what you want to do. So let's set the weight to 50. So let's save this and let's refresh it here and see. Alright, so you can see we have this here and we have the button as well. Okay, so this is what you're going to do, and the button, the type here is submit. Okay, so you have the button as submit. Now if you check here, this is the, as indicated here, that's the name, value, and checked. So that is checked as true over here. And at the form action here, that is a get method. So you're using the form method of what? Get. Now when you pass in as get, it's going to have it in a query strings in the browser. So if I check this, check here. So if I click on that, I'm going to have a query string on the browser, like a search by name and what? So search by name. And now the search item is what? Whatever that you pass here. So if I pass in here MA, now the search by going to be MA, and I have the search by is equal to name. So name is selected. Now if I choose this, what's going to happen here? Because we have search by as gender. So that's what you are using that for radio button. We are using it over here. Okay. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about here, that is you're going to filter the index action. Now you can see that when you check this query string, it returns 2. So we have this, the search by and the search term. So let's check that. Now in our controller, you're going to pass in this parameters, so string search by and string search term. So let's copy this, and in our controller, so that's the home controller. So controller home. Now that is the index, so this is the get method. Let's pass in these parameters. Now aside from that, let's pass in this. So we are going to search for, if the search term is equal to gender, they're going to return all the employees where gender, okay, where gender is equal to gender, right? So where gender sorry, so where gender is equal to the search term as gender. So now let's see. Now if I pass in, so now let's return view, so that let's paste this inside this box. Now that's what we are actually going to do. Now we are saying if search term, so that is a search. Okay, so this is a search, or this is a search by. So let's copy this well, and it's supposed to be search by. Alright, now let's see the reason why we have this. Now instead of workers, not employees, so DB workers. Now DB workers, because the term is workers, to DB workers. Now let's close this. We close them. So now if the search by is equal to gender, so if gender is selected, we're going to return all lists. We're going to select gender from the whole list and display. If a different text is passed in, you're going to search that. That's why you can see that search name dot start with. So all name that start with the character that we're going to pass in here, that's what we're going to search by. But you can see we have this. This is an or. Search can also be null. If not, you're going to see it as what? Empty. And when the page loads for the first time, you're going to see it as empty. But since we pass this as null, it means search can be null. So if nothing is passed in there, then it goes there and now read this, whereby this is equal to null. Now let's save this and let's refresh in a page. So let's refresh this here, and now let's see what's going to happen here. So I'm going to pass in. Okay, so I'm going to pass in. I'm going to choose gender. And I'm going to pass in as male. Now if I click on search, let's see what's going to happen. So you can see that here it's still, it hasn't take effect here yet, because you can see that I pass in male, this is male, and we still have female in here. Okay, so now let's check that and rectify it. So we are passing in search term is equal to gender, return view, so DB workers, where this is equal to gender, this dot gender is equal to what? Search. So search, you pass it to the string, or we convert it to to list, then redisplay, you pass it to the view. So that's the index view. Alright, so now let's build application, build solution. Now let's wait for it to be built, then we test the application to see. Now whilst we wait for it to be built, that's what you want to actually do. When there's no match found, you want to maybe display a certain text to the user. Okay, so like, let's see here. Now let's run this application. So Control plus F5. Now let's run. So as soon as it runs, we have this. So now by name, let's pass in FR. Now search. So you can see we have only FR displayed here. Now if you pass in A, search, nothing. So whereby you have the name here, we want to actually display text. You can see from name, gender, and email, no data found. So we want to display a certain text here. Okay, so let's see. Now when you pass in now, you're going to have everything here. And when you pass in M, let's see, you're going to have Muhammad and Melly over here. So now let's see how to, when you pass in any letter which is not found here, what the default text will be displayed. So that's what we're going to do. Now as you can see from here, we are checking the modal count. So let's copy this. Now let's go to our index page, where you have our index default page. So that's an index page here. Now this is what you want to do. So we see that the first one here, this first one, as you see, when you check this, you can see that is a table, and this table returns, that's a header. So that's a table header. Now aside from table header, you can see we have table row here. This render the table. So let's put in, let's start and fix in this. So if modal, then let's rectify this, and let's see if we can actually copy this whole thing, or we can close one here, then we can delete this. Since we have this if rendered here, we need not to bring this at here, so we can take this at off. Okay, so we are now checking if modal count is equal to if modal.count is equal to 0. So when it checks and the count is equal to 0, what should you want to display? So that's what you want to actually do. or, so that's going to be the else. So else, okay, so else, this is what we want to actually do. So now if the count is equal to 0, what do you want to do? You want to, let's type display this no data found. Now if you check this, how many tables, how many table data do you have? Because we have one tr, and this tr contains 1, 2, 3, right, and 4. So let's say contains 4. So when you check here, because we have 1, okay, 1, 2, 3, right? So we can set the call span to 3. So let's see, if nothing is found, let's create in tr. Okay, so let's return tr, and now with this, what you're going to return here, you're going to create td, then you pass in tr. So let's see, let's copy this, and in here let's paste this. Now the call span is going to be 3 because the table data here are 3, and now we display no data found. So now let's save this, and now let's refresh our page and see. So let's refresh this, and you can see we have no data found. You can decide to set this test. You can pass in a class as what. So let's say you can pass a class, then tst danger. So you can have it at test danger, then font weight as bold, font weight bold as well. So let's save this, and now let's refresh and see. You can see that you're gonna have this to be red. So if I pass in anything else, I'm gonna get it. But if I pass in any whereby it is not found, I have this test displayed as no data found. Okay, so when I clear this and I click on search, I have everything. Now if I choose gender, I pass in M. Now what does M mean? So no data found. So unless I pass in male, now if I pass in male, because I have all male workers. If I pass in female, I'm going to have all female workers, as you can see from here. Alright, so that is it for this video. I hope this is clear, and actually you've achieved something here. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully I'm going to see you guys in the next video.